been less than kind, unimaginative and frustrating, said Hollywood Bible Variety magazine. So sickening, I almost brought up my breakfast, said the woke Bible The Guardian. All the intimacy of Instagram, sneered the normally timid New York Times. A nauseating self-serving snooze fest, said another pundit. Well, that was me, actually.
Meghan is a trained actress. What she does is that she studies people. She's not a good actress, but she is a trained one, right? She's been doing it her entire life. And there is no doubt that she studied Princess Diana. She studied her mannerisms towards Harry when he was a boy and the way that she grabs her face. And this is the psychopathic elements of what she does, putting a pregnancy text next to Princess Diana's hair, saying that she put her hands on the grave to have a conversation with her, bursting into tears. And she has convinced, there's a thing called in psychology called the Freudian transfer. She has convinced Harry that she is Princess Diana.
Harry, to put it politely. I think she is very manipulative. Meghan Markle is someone who's basically got rid of almost her entire family on her side, apart from her mother, her entire family on the father's side, including her father, which is incredibly sad. And now she's wrestled Harry away from his family.
Piers Morgan has just done something no one saw coming. Live on his show, sources claim he displayed photos. Not just any photos. Old images allegedly showing Meghan Markle at exclusive Soho house events from her pre-royal days, surrounded by wealthy men, positioned strategically in elite circles she claims she never pursued. But here's the twist that changes everything. This isn't just Piers ranting like he does every week. This time, observers say he had receipts. Visual evidence that allegedly contradicts the entire fairy tale Meghan has been selling since she met Harry. Images that sources claim were meant to stay buried forever, scrubbed from the internet, hidden behind legal threats and PR control. And once people allegedly saw them flash across the screen, once Piers reportedly started mocking each photo with that signature smirk, once the internet exploded with reactions within minutes of the segment airing, one question echoed louder than anything else. What exactly was Meghan doing at those Soho house parties? And why has she worked so hard to make everyone forget they ever happened?
Okay, she went from the royal family to doing arts and crafts. That is a fall from grace. I've never seen someone fumble the bag harder than Meghan Markle, okay, which tells me she is her own worst enemy, she's her own saboteur, and we see it in the show. There is absolutely no star power.
Tonight, we're breaking down everything. The online chatter.
Next time that we really spot Marcus on the radar is he's sitting next to Meghan at the opening ceremony of the Invictus Games. And it's amazing when you look at that footage back because you realise just how far Prince Harry has dropped.
The history behind these images. The connections Meghan has spent years trying to erase. And most importantly, why this topic refuses to stay buried no matter how many lawyers she throws at it. Piers Morgan is back in the spotlight after a shocking new moment on live TV. Viewers watched as he reacted to what social media claims are newly surfaced images linked to Meghan Markle's old Soho house days. The timing, the reactions, and the internet discussion exploded instantly, and now everyone is asking the same question. Why does this part of her past keep returning to the headlines? Because here's what you need to understand before we go any further. This isn't random criticism from a bitter TV host. This is allegedly years of built-up anger, finally armed with visual proof. This is a man who lost his career because of Meghan Markle, who's been waiting for the perfect moment to expose the woman who allegedly destroyed him. And if sources are accurate about what happened on Piers Morgan and censored recently, that moment has finally arrived. So watch closely, because this conversation is only getting louder. And once you see the connections, the patterns, the evidence that's been hiding in plain sight, you won't be able to unsee it. Let's begin with the man who started this war, and why his obsession with exposing Meghan Markle has been brewing for nearly a decade.
The Favor. For many years, this almost A-list actress, and that's Meghan Markle, precariously balanced herself between dating and yachting. She thought of it as dating upward, and there are perks such as lifestyle and glamour and gifts of dating upward rather than yachting in the traditional sense.
To understand why Piers Morgan is so obsessed with destroying Meghan Markle's carefully constructed image, you need to go back to 2016. Back to one meeting that changed everything. Remember when Piers Morgan met Meghan Markle before she was famous? It was supposed to be a friendly meeting, a casual drink between two media personalities. But buried inside what seemed like normal networking was one moment that quietly detonated everything. They met at a pub in Kensington, talked for over an hour, laughed, connected. Piers thought they were building genuine friendship. He was a successful broadcaster. She was a struggling actress most people had never heard of. And for that one evening, they seemed to genuinely enjoy each other's company. And then Meghan went to Soho House the very next night, had dinner with Prince Harry, and Piers never heard from her again. Never. Not one text. Not one call. Complete radio silence. To most people, that sounds like someone found better opportunities. To anyone who understands social climbing, that sounds calculated. But to Piers Morgan personally, that ghosting wasn't just rude. It was personal betrayal that he's been obsessed with exposing ever since. Think about it from his perspective for a moment. You spend an evening with someone who seems genuinely interested in your friendship. You help them network. You offer connections. You treat them like an equal even though they're nowhere near your level of fame or success. And the very next day, they meet a prince, and you cease to exist to them. That's not just being opportunistic. That's being ruthlessly transactional. And for a man like Piers Morgan, who built his career on calling out phonies and hypocrites, being treated that way by Meghan Markle became something he could never let go. So when we talk about this alleged photo incident, it's important to understand that it's not random criticism. It's reportedly years of built-up anger, finally armed with visual proof. Let's break down the timeline simply so you understand exactly why Piers has been waiting for this moment. First, Meghan ghosts him completely after using him for networking in 2016. That's wow number one. Then she marries Harry, becomes a duchess, and starts positioning herself as this humanitarian icon who cares about equality and justice and speaking truth to power. Piers watches all of this, knowing the woman he met was nothing like the image she's selling. Then comes the Oprah interview in 2021. Meghan makes explosive accusations about the royal family, claims of racism, mental health struggles, being trapped and silenced. The world eats it up. The interview becomes a cultural phenomenon. And Piers Morgan goes on Good Morning Britain and says something that changed his life forever. He said he didn't believe her. Not about everything, but specifically about certain claims that just didn't add up. About feeling suicidal, but being denied help. About not knowing what she was getting into when she married Harry. About the royal family being cruel and racist without providing specific examples or evidence. Piers said what a lot of people were thinking, but were too afraid to say publicly. And the reaction was immediate and devastating. He stormed off his own show on live television after a heated confrontation with a co-host. The segment generated 58,000 complaints. Meghan herself filed a complaint against him. And Piers' career at ITV ended because of her. Think about that. A man who had been a successful broadcaster for decades, who had interviewed presidents and prime ministers, who had built a reputation as someone who wouldn't back down from anyone, lost his job because he questioned Meghan Markle's version of events. So, if sources are accurate about what allegedly happened on Piers Morgan and censored recently, that means Piers spent years waiting for this moment, gathering whatever photos he could find, building a case to destroy the woman who allegedly destroyed his career. It's not possible that he'd let this go. Not believable that he'd move on quietly. Not realistic under any scenario where someone with his platform and his grudge suddenly has ammunition. This wasn't just a segment. This was allegedly revenge served cold, with photographic evidence displayed for millions to see. And the doubts grew even deeper when we examined what these photos allegedly showed, because the version of Meghan Markle that the public knows does not match the version sources claim appeared in those images. Before we dive into what those photos allegedly reveal, let me ask you something. Have you ever been ghosted by someone who then went on to become wildly successful? Someone who used you for what you could offer them, then discarded you the moment someone more valuable came along?
And more importantly, how her curated public image should be. Harry really apparently just wants time alone, doesn't want to be filmed, doesn't want to be put on social media, but has no choice. That very much bewildering picture of them both lamely holding hands looking out at the pumpkin farm really means nothing. It doesn't really go anywhere, does it? And so for Harry himself, he's now, in many people are suggesting,
If you have, you understand exactly why Piers Morgan has been waiting years for this moment. Because watching someone treat you like you're worthless and then position themselves as a moral authority to the world, that creates a kind of anger that doesn't fade. It festers. It grows. And it waits for the perfect opportunity to strike back. And according to sources watching that alleged segment, Piers Morgan's opportunity finally arrived. Comment below if you think Piers is justified in his obsession with exposing Meghan, or if you think he needs to let it go and move on. When we come back, we're examining what Meghan's life actually looked like before she met Harry. Because the story she's told the world about being a struggling actress focused on humanitarian work, that's not what these photos allegedly show. Not even close. Stay with us. Before Harry, Meghan's story was clear and simple. She was a working actress on a cable show called Suits, living a relatively normal life focused on humanitarian work and her blog, The Tig. That's the version she's sold to the world. That's the fairy tale everyone bought. But here's the truth you never see in her Netflix documentaries. Meghan Markle was allegedly deeply embedded in Soho house culture for years. Not as a casual visitor, but as someone whose sources claim treated these exclusive clubs like her personal headquarters. Let me explain what Soho House actually is, because most people think it's just some fancy members-only club. But it's so much more than that. Soho House is a global network of exclusive properties where the wealthy, powerful, and connected gather. It's where deals get made, where relationships form, where ambitious people get access to the kind of power that can change their entire lives. Getting into Soho House isn't easy. It's a members-only club so exclusive that Kim Kardashian and Kobe Bryant were denied membership. The founder, Nick Jones, reportedly said they try not to give membership to people who would fuel paparazzi or bring press. So they're not looking for people who are already famous. They're looking for people who are connected, discreet, and understand how these elite circles operate. And somehow, Meghan Markle, a relatively unknown actress on a cable TV show most people had never watched, had access to properties in multiple cities. London, Toronto, New York, allegedly staying at locations that even major celebrities couldn't get into. How does that happen? How does someone without major fame, without massive wealth, without obvious connections to the elite suddenly have the kind of access that billionaires compete for? That's the question sources say these photos force us to ask. Because according to people who claim they saw the segment Piers allegedly aired, the images showed Meghan at exclusive Soho House gatherings. Yacht parties connected to Soho House events. Luxury locations that don't scream working actress, saving money. One observer noted that these aren't photos of someone who accidentally fell into royal life. These allegedly look like images of someone who spent years positioning herself exactly where wealthy, powerful men would notice her. Now compare that with Meghan's access to Soho House. Photos allegedly exist showing her at these events regularly, surrounded by wealthy men, positioned strategically at parties where billionaires and power brokers gather. This isn't how struggling actresses spend their time. This isn't how someone focused on an acting career networks casually. And this absolutely isn't behavior that matches the humble humanitarian narrative she's built her entire brand around. Think about what your life looked like when you were trying to build a career. Were you hanging out at exclusive clubs with billionaires? Were you jetting between international luxury properties? Were you positioned at elite gatherings where the most powerful people in the world were making deals? Probably not. Because most people focused on building a career are actually working. They're at auditions. They're on set. They're networking with other professionals in their industry. They're not spending their time at parties with wealthy older men who have nothing to do with their profession. So if the photos Piers reportedly showed were taken at elite Soho House events years before Harry, if they depict Meghan embedded in circles she claims she never pursued, if the visual evidence contradicts everything she said about her pre-royal life, then the question becomes simple. Who exactly was Meghan Markle before the fairy tale? And why has she worked so desperately to erase that version from public memory? Sources who claim they saw the segment described photos showing Meghan at exclusive gatherings that don't match her public story. Images that allegedly show a woman who wasn't just visiting these spaces occasionally, but who seemed to be a fixture in a world that most people will never access, no matter how talented or hardworking they are. And here's what makes this particularly interesting. When questions about Meghan's Soho House connections have been raised in the past, her response has been to either ignore them completely or to downplay the relationship. She's described Soho House as just a place she visited when in London. Nothing special, just a convenient spot. But then Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, revealed something very different. In his book, Harry said Meghan called Soho House her headquarters, that she kept luggage there, that she suggested it for their first date because she was so familiar with the location. Two very different descriptions. One suggests casual acquaintance with a trendy club. The other suggests someone who treated the place like a second home. Which version is accurate? And if Meghan has been downplaying her Soho House connections, what else about that part of her life has been minimized or erased from the public story? These are the questions that sources say the alleged photos force us to confront. Because visual evidence is hard to spin. You can craft narratives around words. You can reframe memories. You can claim people misunderstood or misremembered. But photos? Photos are frozen moments in time. And if those moments contradict the story you've been telling for years, no amount of PR can make that problem disappear. Comment below if you've ever been to an exclusive club or event. And if you have, think about this. Did you end up there by accident? Or did it require connections, money, and strategic positioning to gain access? When we come back, we're diving into the man who allegedly made Meghan's Soho House access possible. His name is Marcus Anderson, and his relationship with Meghan raises questions that have never been satisfactorily answered. Stay with us. If the alleged photos raised eyebrows, the Soho House connection sent them higher. Because once you understand how that network operates, something becomes painfully clear. Meghan's access to this world wasn't accidental. Let's start with Marcus Anderson. Not just Meghan's close friend, but the global membership director for Soho House. The man who controls access to these exclusive properties. The gatekeeper who decides who gets into rooms where billionaires and power brokers gather. And for reasons that have never been fully explained, Marcus Anderson allegedly took a very special interest in Meghan Markle's career and social life. Early on, when questions about Marcus Anderson first started surfacing, Meghan downplayed their friendship. She described him as just someone she knew through work, a casual acquaintance, nothing more. But then photos emerged of them together constantly. Marcus attended her wedding to Harry. Sources confirmed he introduced her to Harry in the first place. He was photographed sitting next to Meghan at the opening ceremony of the Invictus Games, right there beside her like he had every right to be in that position. Again, the explanation shifted from casual acquaintance to close confidant. From someone she barely knew to someone so important in her life that he was present at her most significant moments. So, which version is true? And why did the story keep changing? According to sources familiar with Soho House operations, Marcus Anderson's role wasn't just to manage memberships. He allegedly positioned attractive, ambitious young women at exclusive events where they could network with wealthy older men. He facilitated access to yachts, private parties, and luxury vacations for women who otherwise wouldn't have the resources to enter those circles. Now, that might sound like innocent networking, like a well-connected friend helping people advance their careers. But sources claim what Piers allegedly suggested was much darker. That Meghan wasn't just a guest at Soho House. That she was allegedly part of a network where young attractive women were positioned at exclusive events to network with wealthy older men in ways that came with expectations. That the yacht photos, the luxury vacations, the access to billionaire circles all allegedly came with arrangements that Meghan has never publicly acknowledged. High-level access doesn't come free. Someone pays, someone benefits, and someone keeps very quiet about arrangements that don't sound good when spoken out loud. Let me walk you through what we know about Marcus Anderson's relationship with Meghan, because the timeline is revealing. Marcus allegedly met Meghan when she was filming Suits in Toronto. At that time, She was a relatively unknown actress on a cable show. Not famous, not wealthy, not particularly well-connected. And yet Marcus Anderson, a man who controlled access to one of the world's most exclusive social networks, took her under his wing. He allegedly helped her gain access to Soho House properties in multiple cities. He introduced her to wealthy, powerful people. He positioned her at events where she could be seen by exactly the right kind of men. And when Meghan needed to meet someone who could change her entire life, Marcus allegedly arranged for her to be at Soho House in London at exactly the right time to meet Prince Harry. Some people call that friendship. Some people call that networking. But sources suggest it was something more calculated than either of those things. Think about it logically. Why would a man in Marcus Anderson's position invest that much time and energy into helping a struggling actress gain access to elite circles? What was he getting out of it? What was the arrangement? And here's where the alleged photos become important. Because if those images show Meghan at exclusive Soho House events over a period of years, if they show her consistently in the presence of wealthy older men, if they depict a lifestyle that a cable TV actress couldn't afford on her own, then the question becomes unavoidable. How is Meghan funding this lifestyle? Who is paying for her access? And what did they expect in return? When observers noted the frequency of Meghan's appearances at these exclusive gatherings, when they calculated the costs of the travel, the designer clothes, the luxury accommodations, the numbers didn't add up. A supporting actress on Suits made good money, sure, but not private jet money, not regular yacht vacation money, not designer wardrobe for every event money. So where did the money come from? Who was funding Meghan's transformation from working actress to international socialite? And why has that question never been answered satisfactorily? Marcus Anderson's role in Meghan's life raises all of these questions. And the fact that their relationship has been consistently downplayed in public narratives makes people wonder what's being hidden. Let me ask you something. Do you have friends who introduce you to billionaires? Who give you access to exclusive properties worth thousands of dollars per night? Who position you at events where you can meet princes? Most people don't. Most people's friendships involve grabbing coffee, watching movies, maybe going on vacation together if you're close. They don't involve one person systematically opening doors to the kind of wealth and power that changes your entire life. So when someone like Marcus Anderson does all of that for Meghan Markle, and when Meghan then goes on to marry a prince after being positioned at exactly the right place at exactly the right time, it forces a simple question that has never been properly answered. Was this friendship? Or was this business? Comment below if you think Marcus Anderson was just being a good friend, or if you think there was a transactional element to their relationship that Meghan has never acknowledged. When we come back, we're examining the yacht rumors that have haunted Meghan for years. Because those alleged photos Piers showed reportedly included images from yacht parties that Meghan has worked very hard to make everyone forget existed. Stay with us. Now we need to talk about the yacht rumors. Because this is where Meghan's carefully constructed narrative starts to completely fall apart. For years, whispers have circulated about Meghan's involvement in what's euphemistically called the yacht circuit. Luxury boats, wealthy older men, beautiful younger women, exclusive parties in international waters where normal rules don't apply and cameras are strictly forbidden. Meghan has never addressed these rumors directly. Her strategy has always been to ignore them, let them fade, threaten legal action against anyone who dares to publish specifics. And for the most part, that strategy has worked. The mainstream media has been too afraid of lawsuits to investigate seriously. Social media posts get taken down. Websites get legal threats. But according to sources tracking online reactions, the alleged photos Piers Morgan showed included images from yacht parties connected to Soho House events. Images that allegedly depict Meghan in exactly the kind of settings she spent years trying to erase from public memory. One source tracking these discussions noted that a man named Christopher Jones, who allegedly worked the yacht circuit, claimed that his tenure there overlapped with Meghan's time in those same circles. Now, Christopher Jones is a common name, which makes verification difficult. But the claim adds to a pattern of people who were allegedly present in those spaces, saying they saw Meghan there regularly. So let's examine what the yacht circuit actually is, because most people hear that phrase and picture innocent luxury vacations. celebrities on boats, Instagram-worthy sunsets, champagne and glamour. But insiders describe something very different. They describe a system where wealthy men, often older and married, pay for the company of beautiful younger women on luxury yachts, where the women are expected to be charming, entertaining, and accommodating in exchange for access to wealth they could never afford on their own. It's not technically illegal if everyone's an adult and no money explicitly changes hands for specific services, but it occupies a gray area that people involved prefer not to discuss publicly. And it's exactly the kind of past that someone positioning themselves as a humanitarian icon and future duchess would desperately want to hide. Now, I want to be very clear about something. I cannot independently verify that Meghan participated in yacht culture in any inappropriate way. There are no confirmed reports of illegal activity, and being photographed on a yacht doesn't automatically mean anything inappropriate happened. But what we can examine is the pattern of evidence and the questions that pattern raises. Meghan had access to luxury yachts in multiple international locations over several years. Croatia, the Mediterranean, exclusive destinations that most people will never visit. She was allegedly photographed at yacht parties with wealthy men whose names have never been disclosed. She traveled internationally far more frequently than her acting salary would reasonably support. And she had connections to Marcus Anderson, whose role allegedly involved positioning young women at exactly these kinds of elite gatherings. All of that is documented. All of that is verifiable through photos and travel records and witness accounts from people who were present in those spaces. So the question isn't whether Meghan was present at yacht parties. The evidence suggests she was. The question is what her role was at those parties and how she gained access to that world in the first place. And here's where the alleged photos Piers showed become particularly damaging. Because if those images depict Meghan at yacht parties over a period of years, if they show her consistently in the company of wealthy older men, if they capture moments from exclusive gatherings that she's never publicly acknowledged, then the carefully constructed narrative about her pre-royal life starts to crumble. Think about how Meghan has described her life before Harry. She was a working actress. She ran a lifestyle blog. She did humanitarian work. She was just a normal person trying to build a career and make a difference in the world. That's a nice story. It's the kind of origin story that makes someone seem relatable and genuine. It's the foundation of her entire public persona. But what if the reality was very different? What if Meghan was living a double life that her fans and supporters have never seen? What if the struggling actress persona was actually a cover for a much more calculated social climbing strategy? The yacht rumors have persisted for years despite Meghan's attempts to bury them. Multiple sources who claim to have been present in those circles have come forward with similar stories. Photos that allegedly show Meghan at these events keep surfacing despite aggressive efforts to scrub them from the internet. And now, according to observers who claim they watched the segment, Piers Morgan has allegedly shown some of those images on live television. Images that Meghan probably thought had been successfully erased from public access. When someone who's as litigious as Meghan Markle, someone who has sued newspapers and filed complaints against critics, suddenly goes silent when damaging photos allegedly surface, it raises an obvious question. Is the silence because she can't dispute what was shown? Or is it because fighting back would only draw more attention to images she desperately wants forgotten? Let me ask you something. If someone showed photos of you at events you'd never publicly acknowledged, doing things that contradicted the image you've carefully built, what would you do? Would you immediately issue denials? Would you threaten lawsuits? Would you provide an innocent explanation for why you were there? Or would you stay silent and hope the story goes away because you know that any response would just make people look more closely at photos you can't explain away? Comment below what you think Meghan's silence means. Is it because the photos are real and she can't dispute them? Or is there another explanation we're missing? When we come back, we're examining Meghan's pattern of shifting narratives. Because every time questions about her Soho house past have surfaced, her explanations have changed. And those changes tell a story all by themselves. Stay with us. When someone tells the truth, their story stays consistent. Details might get fuzzy over time, sure. But the fundamental facts don't change. The core narrative remains stable. But when someone is managing a carefully constructed image, when they're hiding parts of their past that don't fit the persona they're selling, the story shifts. Details change. Explanations evolve. And the more questions people ask, the more the narrative has to adjust to cover inconsistencies. That's exactly what we see with Meghan's explanations about her Soho House connections. The story keeps changing depending on what information has surfaced and what questions she's being forced to answer. First, when people initially asked about her Soho House involvement, Meghan described it as just a place she visited when in London. Nothing special. Just a convenient spot where she could grab a drink or have a meeting. The implication was that her connection to Soho House was casual, incidental, no different from anyone else who might pop into a trendy club occasionally. But then Prince Harry's memoir Spare revealed something very different. In his book, Harry described Meghan calling Soho House her headquarters. She kept luggage there. She was so familiar with the location that she suggested it for their first date because she knew the staff, knew the layout, knew exactly how to navigate that space. That's not a casual visitor. That's someone who treated Soho House like a second home. Two very different descriptions. One suggests minimal connection. The other suggests deep integration into that world. Both can't be true. So which version is accurate? And why did the explanation need to change? Then came questions about Marcus Anderson. Early on, Meghan downplayed their friendship. She described him as just someone she knew through work, a professional acquaintance, someone she'd met a few times in passing. But then photos emerged of them together constantly. Marcus was at her wedding. Sources confirmed he introduced her to Harry. He was photographed sitting next to Meghan at major events, positioned right beside her like he was part of her inner circle. The explanation shifted from casual acquaintance to close confidant. From someone she barely knew to someone so important in her life that he had access to her most intimate moments. Again, the story changed once evidence surfaced that contradicted the initial narrative. And then there's the wealth question. Meghan presented herself as a working actress, living modestly. Someone who was building a career through talent and determination. Someone who lived within her means and focused on meaningful work rather than material luxury.